The first product is the Supremo. Here's what the bottle looks like. Same kind of uniform packaging, but you can see this label is quite different than the Plata. Beautiful label art. And this is still that kind of heavy hand-blown glass that feels super premium. I wrote an article for my website about the full Siempre portfolio, and I'll link that down below in the description, but I'm just going to read what I wrote for the Supremo. Siempre Supremo is a complex, old-world, high-proof, wild-fermented Blanco tequila made from 100% Tahona crushed Supremo agave, known for its high price and superior sugar content. This product is double distilled in stainless steel with copper parts at the La Cofradía distillery, which is NOM 1137, in Tequila, Jalisco, from 100% Supremo Blue Weber agave sourced from the Los Altos region. I'll touch on what exactly is Supremo agave here in a minute. The agave is cooked in stone and brick ovens, 100% Tahona crushed and open wild air fermented with agave fibers. And if you're not familiar with what a Tahona is a traditional method of crushing cooked agave. It's basically a giant wheel made of rock, historically volcanic rock. Many boutique or super premium brands will use a portion or 100% Tahona crushed agave because many tequila enthusiasts feel that Tahona crushed agave has a huge impact on the final flavor of the tequila versus mechanically crushed or mechanically shredded agave. The water source comes from a volcanic spring. The final product is bottled unaged at still proof between 90 and 110 or 45 to 55% ABV and is verified additive free by Tequila Matchmaker. All right, I wanted to clarify what exactly is Supremo agave. I've worked in the alcohol beverage industry for 9 years and I've sold a lot of tequila brands, and this is one term that I had never come across previously. I reached out directly to an employee from the Siempre brand, and this is what they said. Supremo means the agave was harvested at their peak maturity, anywhere from 6 to even sometimes 12 years, hand-picked from every harvest, significantly larger and higher in Brix content. Every time the agave is harvested, we received what's called a guia or GUIA, which shows which location the agave was harvested from and the agave's maturity. These factors determine whether or not we classify the agave as Supremo. Hopefully that sheds a little bit of light about what exactly Supremo agave is and does it have a significant impact on the final product. We'll get to that, I guess, when we get to the tasting component. I actually have two different bottles of Siempre Supremo here, so let's just look at the bottling proof. I believe this is the earlier edition because it's batch number 3, bottle number 668, and this is bottled at 47% ABV, so what is that, 94 proof? So the second bottle doesn't even give a batch number, and it says bottle number is 1227/4626. So actually, I'm not quite sure what that means, but I believe this is the more recent bottle that I've acquired, and this is bottled at 55% ABV, so 110 proof. So you can see I have two different products here, two different bottling proofs, because again, they're bottling this at still proof, meaning it's not diluted with any water before it is bottled. And, with extra proof comes extra flavor. So I'm actually going to be trying these both and letting you know my thoughts on the difference between them. And then this is actually the newer bottle I have. You can see the label art is the same, but it has this kind of sheen to the label art. I just love the label art on these. And you can see some really cool details that kind of highlight the production transparency. And then you have embossing on the back, further embossing here. And I did confirm, so both the bottles I have are distilled at NOM 1137. Let's taste this product. I'm going to start out by tasting the lower proofed option. So this one is bottled at 47% ABV. And I believe this is actually the older bottle that I have. So you can see what they call water white. This product sees no oak. I'm going to read through the tasting notes from the brand. All right, the brand describes the aroma on this as citrus, agave, butter, olive, earth, and pepper. It's got a really nice nose, a little more subtle than I expected, but I think that kind of butter, olive, earth, that might be spot on. I mean, you still get that citrus agave, a little bit of herbaceousness, that kind of pepper. Definitely getting a good aroma of agave with a little that pop of citrus. But I think that butter, olive, and earth. I mean that might be spot on. So again, this has a beautiful aroma on the nose, relatively subtle, but also noticeably different than when last week I smelled the plata. It's very important that you do not confuse the plata or the silver with the Suprema, both of which are unaged. One is bottled at 80 proof and one is bottled at still proof. And again, this one's 47% ABV, so it's going to have a lot more flavor. The palate is described as vanilla, basil, lime, pineapple, ripe fruit, mint, and green olives, balanced with earthy, vegetal, and sweet agave notes. Okay, so that's a pretty complex descriptor for the palate. So let's give it our first sip. You can definitely feel that bump in proof, but I would say the increased alcohol kind of fades pretty quickly on the palate. Again, this is my first sip. It fades pretty quickly, and it's not too much of a shock to the system, and it immediately kind of fades into these flavors. Again, I'm already kind of getting ripe fruit, mint, green olive. I mean, that might be that there's something else there. I'll probably get it on the second sip when my palate is kind of warmed up to the alcohol. I mean, starting your first tasting today with tequila, unaged tequila at 47% ABV might be a slight shock to the palate. I'm sure on that second sip I'll get a lot more of the secondary flavors, but there's something there. There's ripe fruit for sure, and it's not green. When I say green, I don't mean like underripe, overly herbaceous, but that kind of mint, green olive, maybe even basil, lime. Okay, let's revisit this. Oh yeah, second sip, your mouth's already warmed up to the alcohol. It's all flavor, and this has got pretty big flavor. Yeah, maybe this, honestly though, it says sweet agave notes. I find this is a little more vegetal and earthy. I know it says that balanced by earthy, vegetal, and again it's saying that kind of basil, mint, green olive. I think that's really spot on. A lot of silver tequilas that are made at this level, with a really high quality production method, it tends to be kind of a very pure, linear agave flavor. You can really taste the roasted agave flavors from that kind of traditional roasting method. But there's something else, and I wonder if that has to do with that agave sourcing. This tastes noticeably different than other super premium silver tequilas I've had. Again, it's going to pack a lot more flavor with that alcohol, but there's something there that makes it distinctly different. And I could see certain agave enthusiasts really liking that subtle difference and other people not. I mean, some people really want those kind of pure traditional flavors that come from, roasted agave. But this is complex. I mean, this definitely has layers of complexity. It's definitely not one-dimensional. And you might even, I didn't save any tequila left on my glass, you might even have to revisit this a third time to really separate all those different flavors. This is a very interesting tequila, and this is definitely a tequila for someone with a high degree of experience and somebody that has a pretty good palate for tequila, drinks a lot of tequila, drinks a lot of super premium tequila, and can really have the kind of knowledge and skill set to be able to peel apart those different flavors. The finish is described as a savory and dry finish. It's definitely got a clean finish. It coats your palate pretty well. It's not overly heavy, but it's definitely not as light as some other tequilas I've had that just finish so clean and leave your palate almost refreshed. Maybe it's the increased alcohol, but this definitely hangs on your palate a little more, and there's there's a little more flavor to chew upon. It's definitely got, I think, a savory finish is a really accurate descriptor here. It's not that overly sweet tequila. Again, there's no additives in this, but you can get a sweet flavor profile without additives from roasting fully mature ripe agave. But this doesn't. I mean, this has, I mean, there's definitely no underripeness here. It's not herbaceous, savory. It's just different. It's complex and it's different. And maybe that's what Siempre is going for here. Again, high proof tequila is all the rage right now. There's not that many options in my market. I know Herradura just released their Blanco, not to be confused with their Silver. The Silver spends 45 days in barrel and is bottled at 80 proof for 40% ABV. The Herradura Blanco is bottled at 92 proof, so not quite still proof, but definitely a lot higher ABV and a lot higher proof than most tequilas. Most tequilas, especially here in the United States, are bottled at 80 proof or 40% ABV. So to have a still strength tequila, I think is fascinating because it allows you to really experience the full unfiltered taste of that product without dilution. You might be wondering, how do you drink this? How would you drink a 94 proof silver tequila? Again, you could mix this in cocktails, right? And that proof would definitely hold up in that cocktail. It would make it probably a delicious, simple margarita. But I think something like this, this might be in sipping territory, just not because of the price point, but because of the degrees of complexity and the flavor profile and the higher proof. So if I were to drink this, you might put it on a big rock or over ice and maybe just zest like a little bit of orange, or just zest a little bit of your citrus of choice to kind of complement those flavors. And I always find that the essential oils from zesting a single piece of citrus really helps enhance the flavor profile. A lot of people, that's how they like to drink their Cristalinos. Complex, super premium tequilas, you don't always have to mix them in a margarita or a paloma. You can drink them neat. You can drink them on the rocks, just like a nice whiskey. And the flavors are going to change. Neat versus diluted with a little bit of ice. Hopefully I accurately captured the kind of description of tasting this product. I'm going to move on to the second bottle of Supremo that I have, and this one has a slightly higher bottling proof. All right, second bottle. This one is bottled at 55% ABV, so 110 proof. So now we're going up in proof. I would say it's, even though it has a slightly higher proof, it has the same kind of intensity on the nose, but I'm still getting that kind of butter, olive, almost a little earthy, with some kind of subtle citrus. It's not overly herbaceous. So again, I find, 2 different bottles, 2 different batches, 2 different bottling proofs, but I'm finding a relatively consistent aroma on the nose. Let's give this our first taste on the palate. And so again, the flavor profile for this product is described as vanilla, basil, lime, pineapple, ripe fruit, mint, green olive, balanced with earthy, vegetal, and sweet agave notes. Oh, big flavor. This feels like just that slight bump in proof. You've really dialed up the flavor a lot more. Even though my mouth was kind of warmed up to the alcohol, I can still feel the bump in proof, but it feels pretty well integrated. You still feel it, still a little boozy. I notice it doesn't, it coats your palate a lot more, and there's a lot more flavor to kind of chew on, but it takes a bit longer for the flavor to transition from the kind of alcohol into the first wave of flavor. I would say this definitely is still kind of erring on that earthy, vegetal, mint, green olive, basil. I don't know if I'm getting any vanilla, but that just might be the proof. And You know, if there's any ripe fruit on this, it's pretty subtle. It's definitely a secondary flavor. So let's give it one more taste. Still not getting any vanilla. That lime is kind of popping out on that second sip. And I could probably see some ripe fruit, but it's not overripe. It's just right. And again, this tastes noticeably different than a lot of tequilas in this kind of price segment in a very enjoyable way. But again, before I move on and talk about pricing, I just always want to kind of highlight who this product's for. This product, not just because of the price point, but because of the flavor profile, is for a more advanced agave or tequila drinker. There's flavors here that are slightly unconventional compared to traditional kind of commercial tequila. And I'm sure that's on purpose, right? You know, Siempre is trying to do things in an interesting way. They're trying to do things in a traditional way, which creates perhaps slightly more interesting or unconventional flavors. So again, this flavor profile, it works. And the higher proof, I think, is super interesting. I think it's very on trend at the moment. And I think tequila connoisseurs and agave nerds are really going to like this because it does taste a little different. And I think you could really sip on this. And I bet if I sipped on this for 15 minutes, especially diluted over a little bit of ice or with some water, I mean, that flavor profile is going to change. It's going to evolve. And it's going to be something noticeably different at the end of it. It changes with dilution. It changes with time. It changes in the glass, just like a fine wine. So I have no doubt, I know I'm perhaps selling this product short by just giving it a couple sips, but I can already tell that this product has more to give, and the flavor profile and the complexity is going to change, you know, and depending on the format in which I'm drinking it. So I find this super interesting. This was a really enjoyable experience. And let's talk pricing. All right, I'm based in Tulsa, Oklahoma. I'm going to be quoting average retail price for my market, but please check your local liquor store for pricing. Every single market's different. So in my market, the Supremo is going to retail somewhere between $60 and $65. So we're well over that $50 price point. So we can be a little more critical of our tequilas. Is this product worth $60 or $65? I'm going to say yes, but the caveat is this product is for perhaps a more advanced tequila drinker or perhaps a more established agave nerd. This is a product that is a little different, you know, not just the bottling proof, but the flavors that come with it and the kind of nerdy production process and the way they're sourcing their agave. So this is a product for a more advanced palate. So it's not just the price point, but it's the flavor profile that is going to elevate this from kind of novice, intermediate, into more advanced territory. So I think if you are an established tequila drinker with a more advanced agave palate, then this product is definitely worth the money for you. Thank you so much again for watching. I'm going to end this video here. I hope you learned something, and I hope you enjoyed this video. Please give it a like and consider subscribing. If you do not care about the video component of this material, please consider subscribing to my podcast. It's just the audio component of these educational and review videos. You can find it on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you listen to podcasts. If you'd like to be notified whenever I have new content on my website or this YouTube channel, please consider subscribing to my email newsletter. I'll leave a link below in the description. If you are a supplier and you are interested in featuring one of your products on my channel, please shoot me an email. I'll leave a link below in the description. And finally, if you have feedback, questions, you just want to get in touch, please consider sending me an email. I personally read every single email I receive, and I do my best to respond to all of them that I can. If you have any sort of feedback, obviously you're always welcome to leave a comment. I always read the comments, and I actually have adapted some of my material to some of the feedback I got in the comments. But if you want to go a little more in depth, or you want to go one-on-one, shoot me an email. I'll leave a link below in the description. And finally, if you'd like to support this channel further, please consider becoming a Patreon member or gift me a cocktail through the link below in the description. Thank you so much again for your support. And as always, please drink responsibly.